For those of you who are not aware, we'd like you to know that you are in attendance at Avenue D, and it is the 4th annual induction ceremony of the South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame.
Sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm blue. My disposition depends mainly on you. I'll never mind the rain from the skies if I can see the sun shining in your eyes. You know what I mean?
We'd like to introduce our featured mistress of ceremony. She is the real Tracy Fields, WLRN FM Radio.
Good evening, and welcome back to another fabulous induction ceremony of the South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame. Let's have a round of applause for that. Joe does not need an introduction. Joe Donato, if you don't know Joe, you certainly will by the time he finishes playing tonight, or actually by the time he puts a horn to his lips, you will know Joe. He is... I'm at a loss for words. Yeah, I'm at a loss for words. So in that case, it must mean it's time for me to stop talking and it's time for Joe to start playing. Joe Donato, come on!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Avenue D. It's about time they named the club after me. I mean, they got Willie Chirino Way and Jesse Jones Terrace, which is good. Welcome. I want to say that. I was thinking about Alice Day. She wants to be happy. Sometimes she's happy, sometimes she's not happy. But I want to be happy too. But I can't be happy unless I make you happy too. Okay? Here we go. Oh, you mind if I get comfortable? Take it all. Hold it in, hold it in. Here we go, here we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And before I express to you all the thanks I have for being up here, I want to play some more music. And I've often been asked, how did I get involved in jazz? And I really didn't start out with jazz. I started out with rock and roll, and my heroes were Fats Domino and Little Richard. And that's how I grew up, and also listened to gospel music. And I'd like to see if I can get into a little gospel groove to start off with and warm up for you. This song was written by my first idol, and still is, Julian Cannonball Adderley. I used to dig gospel music, and when I first heard Cannonball, I said, hey, yeah, that's it. Here's a song he wrote, and the lyrics are by Eddie Jefferson and Joe Donato. Got to put Eddie Jefferson first, all right? This is called Things Are Getting Better. This is kind of my story. Things are getting better all the time. Things are getting better all the time. When I first started playing, I only played rock and roll. Now I'm playing with the jazz hands and it grows my soul. It's getting better, it's getting better all the time. It's better. Getting better all the time. Things are getting better. Have I lost my mind? First to the black bottle with the red tag. It's getting better Things are getting better, better. Well, I'm relaxing a little bit now because I was nervous. You know, like I was having my first Holy Communion or something here tonight. Well, it's sort of like that. It's important like that because of the South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame. And at the roots of this, I think I want to take the time, you know, I was supposed to just put the horn in my mouth and blow, Joe. Don't talk a whole bunch. But I got to tell you about the Sunshine Jazz Organization. And go ahead, give it to them. There's one name that's at the roots of that, and I met him when I first arrived in Miami in 1970. His name, of course, you all know, China Vallis. I can't see with these lights, but I feel China's right out in front of me. And I asked China, because he made me feel so good every night playing all the good jazz music. I said, China, what's your favorite song? He said, Joe, don't take your love from me. No, I mean, I will never leave you, China. I love you, but what's your favorite song? He said, Joe, don't take your love from me. It's a song.
China Vallis. Okay, when I say China Vallis, I have another song. I made all the music today. I wanted it to be in a way of thanks to the people who are so important with these great organizations. And of course, you know, talking about Alice Day. So Dolphin says, hey, let's play blues for Alice. But Chuck Bergeron asked me to get that a couple years ago for one of his classes doing bird blues, but I didn't know the head that well, so I said I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to do Alice in Wonderland for you, Alice. And when you hear her sing, well, she knows all about Wonderland. She knows her way around there. So this is for you, Alice Day. Thank you, Alice Day. And ladies and gentlemen, earlier I mentioned that I started off with jazz by listening to gospel music and then hearing Cannonball Adderley. Well, then I came to Miami, and my first band, fantastic, but all the cats are gone. Fish Ray, Slick, Tinker, Calypso Eddie, all the guys. One guy's left. I'd like you to meet him. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Danielle McLeod. Bring him up here. It's going to help me out on the next song. It's going to give you a little taste of what we used to do in 1970. Lucy in the band. Okay, that's Mr. Castellano, Delphi Castellano on the piano, grand piano, and Mr. Chuck Bergeron on bass. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the lady of the day. Here's Alice.
The Joe Donato. Joe Donato, wait. I think she wanted to say something. You have to walk, could just.
Not that she actually needed to say anything, but I told Joe he didn't need an introduction, didn't I? He didn't need an introduction. Nothing, dear. You're fabulous as usual. But the other thing that occurred to me is Joe is filled with music, as you can tell. Not only from witnessing his performance here just now, but it's even on his shirt. I don't know if you can read and show people your shirt, Joe.
I'm going to take it off now.
Ta-da!
36 feet. Nice. You check the socks?
Got the pictures.
That's Joe D. That's Joe D.
And that's one way you get to be a member of the South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame.
The shirt and the socks. Listen, before Joe goes to, we got something special for you, but in just a minute, I want to tell you something. We have, of course, everybody here knows Mel Yancey, right? And Mel and I have been having this heated conversation, and you know how that goes too. So I told him, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will poll the audience. Do you want to look at this if he wants to sing the blues?
Mr. America.
Now, by your applause, we will let him come up here and sing the blues. Where is Daniel? Is Daniel still here to play the blues with us? He can also play. Okay, where's Daniel? Where did he go to?
Daniel's on the set.
Daniel.
A B-flat blues. Can we get a B-flat blues? Can it go like this?
Yeah, let's go.
A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. And we got Daniel on the congas. spending so much time I don't know what to do.
Don't believe it. Don't believe the words. Tracy Fields, please.
And the folks we're gathered here to honor tonight, the 2012 class, I'll just run over the names real quickly, and then we'll be formal about it. Today's inductees, honorees: Jet Nero, Dolph Castellano, Alan Grant, Myrtle Jones, Joe Donato, and Sam Jones. As I said, it's not just a matter of being from South Florida and having something to do with jazz music. You know, you have to bring it to earn your way into the South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame. So, that said, let's recognize the folks who have brought it. Beginning with, where shall we begin? Shall we begin with Sam Jones? Sister Alice Faye? Now, some of these folks, I didn't arrive in South Florida until late in 1988. I have had a career or two or six. And when I came to South Florida, I was not a jazz disc jockey. I had been one before, and when I came down here, I had a day job. So I devoted the first several years that I lived in South Florida to trying very hard to be a good reporter. And I didn't get out a whole lot. So a great many of these wonderful musicians I never had the opportunity to experience personally. Sam Jones among them. So Alice has agreed to help me out. She's going to share some of her reminiscences about some of these folks as we go through the evening. And thank you also, Mr. Bergeron, for bringing up the goodies. So, Sam Jones, a bassist, the late Sam Jones, didn't begin his musical career as a bassist. He started out, I believe, as a kid playing the drums. Which just goes to show you the versatility is very important, and sometimes it takes a few minutes to figure out what you're doing in life and in music. So Sam Jones worked with a number of responsible individuals, as the Maj would say, including the likes of Cannonball Adderley. And he switched to bass from drums after being influenced by hearing Oscar Pettiford on the record. He played with Cannonball on the album Something Else, also on that album. Hank Jones, Art Blakey, and Miles Davis. So that's the bassist, Sam Jones. One of your favorite albums, you say? Okay, so what else can you tell us about Sam Jones?
Not too much, except that solo they played on Automobiles. That's one reason to be by the record. Do it. I'm telling you.
The name of the album, once again, is Something Else, Cannonball Adderley, featuring South Florida's own Sam Jones. Now, some of the folks who are being honored tonight, they don't have other family or representatives here to collect their award, but doesn't matter, they have all of us here. So let's honor Sam Jones with a warm round of applause. And another person that I came along a little bit late to enjoy and appreciate, but about whom I've heard a great deal, is Jet Muriel. Yeah, I said, and I don't even have to sit around and fumble around about this because there is somebody here who knew and loved Jet personally who's going to come up and share some words about Jet Muriel. Bobby Thomas, Bobby T. Okay. Mike Wood? You want to come up and talk about Jet for us, please? Mike Wood with some words about Jet Muriel.
Okay, how long have we got? You got a couple of hours? 3 minutes, okay, I won't take that long. First of all, I'm going to speak on behalf of Bobby Thomas, who had to leave. He was a close friend of Jet, and he personally wanted to thank Jet for all the things he did for him when he was first in town. And he says it's directly because of Jet that he got the job with Weather Report and all that stuff. So that's from Bobby. From me, late in his life I became a close personal friend, but I've always respected Jet. He was one of the first people I played with when I came to Miami off the cruise ships. Was on Biscayne Boulevard. I didn't forget the name of the place next to the canal. The Vagabond, was it? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, there was something specific I wanted to say, but it slipped my mind. So, oh, I know what it was. It occurred to me at one point, thinking about Jet, that a lot of people who are into music and jazz and play instruments, but for me, Jet wasn't just someone who played the saxophone, he was a jazz musician at heart, who happened to have a saxophone to use. But so that's what I feel his soul was, as a true jazz musician, more than anyone else I know. While I'm up here, I'd like to say, pass my regards to Doc Castellano, and I was fortunate to play with him at the cricket club with Maria Marshall, and in turn he was a great mentor for me to get me started playing jazz in Miami. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. We would like to invite Carolyn Barney to the stage. Carolyn Barney is the wife of the late Jet Muriel. And I would like to say about Jet Muriel, we took a trip to Europe, to Switzerland in particular. And you know, it's a totally different story over there than it is here. And you are allowed to play on the streets. I mean, you really need a license to do that, but you can do it. And you can make some money. I mean, more than you get paid at night. And I woke up one morning and Jet was under my hotel room window, playing his horn. That was funny to me. I threw something down there. And you don't know, I don't mean that. You know, I'm not talking about that. It was some coins. That made his day. He did it on purpose. But at any rate, we'd like you to know, Carolyn, that Jet was and still is in our hearts. Yes, he is. And he left his mark here. You know what I mean? He was something else. Mrs. Carolyn Barney.
I would like to say thank you for this honor, and on behalf of my family, Misty, Nick, Joy, and Isaiah, and Tony, our son that lives in Clearwater. He couldn't be here today, but thank you very much.
And you are. Thank you. Oh, very well. And Misty, I haven't seen Misty in 35 years? 23 years? Okay, I'm sorry. I have haven't seen Misty in a long time, and I still can't see her because somebody's shining a light in my face. So, but I will see you in a minute. And I would also like to say that the South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame was born because it's always nice to say thank you, or I love you, or I remember you, when you give your life something that means so much to others. Do you know what I mean? I think that all these people are deserving, and it should have been done a long time ago. So we are trying to make up for lost time. We cannot do everybody all at once, but we're trying to get it together. Since 2009, we have been doing 6 per year. This is the 4th year. So you do the math. We'll get it done. Given the time, we'll get it done. We'd also like to just remind you that we have ballots for you to vote for next year. 2 out of 4, you vote. The committee has already chosen 4. So next year we will have 6. Before the end of the night, we will give you the names of the 6 nominees for next year. Okay? If you need a ballot, one of the ladies over there will get one for you. There she is. If you want to turn your ballot in, she will also pick it up. So just slightly raise your hand, or she will walk around and pick it up or give you a new ballot if you need, okay? Okay, we can, and don't vote twice, okay? Just vote once, that'll be enough. Okay, moving right along. Our next recipient is not with us tonight. I don't know if her family is here or not, but she is Miss Myrtle Jones. Some of you remember Myrtle Jones. She was the toast of the town, especially in the 60s and 70s. I don't know if you remember her or not, but we didn't really need a Sarah Vaughan. We didn't really need a Carly McRae. Variety is nice, that's why we wanted them. We had Myrtle Jones, and she was worthy. Round of applause for Miss Myrtle Jones. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Next. Okay. The next recipient is Alan Grant. I'm sure some of you remember Alan Grant, if not all of you. I was hoping for Stewie. He said he would be here tonight. Is he here? No. Stu Grant, is he here? Okay, he's not here. Okay, well, I just must tell you that, as I said before, the induction was in June of last year, and Alan left us in October of last year. We almost made it. And it would be nice if we could, kind of avoid that, do it in time. We're working on it. Please put your hands together for Alan Grant. Yeah, he brought us a lot of good music to turn us on to a lot of things. Okay. Oh, it's Jill. Our next recipient is
Our next recipient is, apparently, it's just my destiny to talk nicely about Joe Donato today. I can do that, it's not a problem. In addition to being full of the music, when I said earlier that Joe was full of the music, you've seen how marvelous he is as a musician and as an entertainer, but Joe also flowing from Joe is, Joe is a fountain of knowledge and information about the music. You can talk with Joe superficially about jazz, as I have done on more than one occasion, not being a trained musician myself, but he can also take it to the next level. I always refer to him as Professor Donato. So he brings it on he's a complete package. And another thing that I admire about Joe and about our other honoree tonight, these are people who've been able to put together stable relationships, which is not something that anybody can do, and it can be especially challenging for musicians. So let's welcome back Joe Donato to collect his honor.
Tracy, thank you. Thank you, Alice. May I say a few words of thank you? Number one, South Florida Jazz Hall of Fame. First, Sunshine Jazz Organization. That's very number one. But just as important, I want to say that this recognition I want to share with all the great artists that I've played with over the years. Some of them here, Ted McDermott, a fellow, all these people we worked together and they supported me, they inspired me. They made me sound good. So I share this honor with you. And I'm most gratified by this honor, and I want to give the credit to you, the audience. I'll tell you why, because if it wasn't for you, well, we'd still have jazz. We don't need you to make the jazz, but we need you to make the fame or the recognition or the support. The fact that you're here today, you share this award with the inductees, the distinguished inductees past and present. I thank you.
This way, Joe. Thank you.
And last but not least, definitely not least, kind of relaxing over there in the corner, would be our pianist for the evening. I mentioned earlier that when I first came to Miami, I spent a great deal of time trying to be a responsible citizen with a day job. So it was quite a while before I got out at night, quite a while before I had a chance to hear any music. But when I finally did get up from my desk, one of the first musicians that I heard was Dolph Castellano. And I said to myself, okay, I think Miami might be a place where I can stay and live happily. Dolph Castellano, a fixture, a legend, and Alice, you said you had some stories that you might be able to tell about Dolph. Are there any children in the room?
Well, you know, there is a poem that reminds me of Dolph. And I'll hold that while you read it because I can't see it very well. I can read people, I just can't see it very well. But this poem kind of reminds me of Dolph.
And it's called The Jazz Rooster. An old rooster who is getting ready to retire from his gig on the farm invites some young up-and-coming roosters to audition for this choice position. The first young rooster shows up and scats Dizzy's Groovin' Eyes solo. Nothing happens. The sun doesn't rise and no dogs bark. The next young rooster stands up and does Bird solo from A Night in Tunisia. And nothing happens. And then there's a third rooster who's quite pompous. I think we've all seen this rooster performing around town. He scats Train's solo from Giant Steps. And nothing happens. Finally, the old rooster says, you're so good. He clears his throat, gives a little cough, and cries out, cock-a-doodle-doo! Cock-a-doodle-doo! And that's the ticket. The sun rises, the dogs start barking, the farmer wakes up, and the old rooster looks at the younger ones and says, I've been telling you sorry SOBs for years. The standards, you got forget the standards first.
Let's stop. You know? Yes. To North Castellano. With pleasure and much love. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's not it. Thanks a lot. I appreciate this honor, and if it's okay, I'd like to dedicate this part of this night to a good friend of mine. I found out this morning that he passed away at 4 o'clock in the morning. His name was Charlie Artinian. And I knew Charlie for at least 60 years. And there was never a more advocate of jazz and loved jazz. He played trumpet, and he was a great guy. And if it's okay, I'd like to dedicate this particular night to him.
Not only is it okay, you get it. We thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of our award ceremony. So won't you please give all the inductees a big round of applause. Is that the way the rest of the group?
How's it feel, Joe?
I want to thank you once again for coming out today, and thank you also for participating.
I'm speechless.
You can talk to me. How's it feel?
This is a thrill of my life. You know, recently I had so much gratitude for everything that happened in my life, particularly when I started at the University of Miami, so I wanted to say thank you, so I donated my body to the University of Miami Medical School, and then I got this honor. My wife says, well, you got everything now. You gave your body to the University of Miami, you're in the Hall of Fame. Now how about cleaning the garage?
spark away? Would you take the wings from birds so that they can fly? Would you take the ocean's roar and be just the sky? All this your heart won't let you do. This is what I beg of you.